Hello, thank you for watching my channel today. My name's Sarah and my channel is called Your Tree Shelf. Today we're celebrating as I have reached my 2,000 subscribers mark. So I just want to start by obviously saying thank you so much if you're one of the people who's subscribed or is considering subscribing to my channel. It means a lot to me. I'm not in this for the numbers, I'm in it for the connections with other bookish people, but it is lovely that there's 2,000 people out there who have subscribed to my channel and who've watched my content, and I'm really grateful for that. Booktube has brought an incredible amount of joy to my life and so many good books, lots of friendships which have developed into in real life friendships. And I just want to say thank you so much as my starting point. It's taken me a really, really long time to get to this point because I started my channel in 2018. So yeah, it's been a long time coming. So thank you to everyone who submitted a question for this Q&A, which is how we are marking this occasion. I've divided it into two categories. There's the categories which are about book stuff, which I'll do first, and then there's the ones which are about other like life stuff, which I will do second. So Tina asked me, as a mum to 2 young kids who also works full time, how do you balance it all and still find time to read? Tips on finding time to read on top of everything else, being a mum, working out, being a wife, a daughter, a doctor, etc. And Molly asked, when do I fit reading into my day? So yes, I do have a full life. I don't work full time. I work 2.5 days a week, but my days are very long, so my hours are nearly full time. So I kind of do, my days are sort of 8 till 7, and my half day is normally about 8 till 3, so not really a half day. So I do quite a lot of hours, but not every day. I do all the things aforementioned. So I have 2 children who are 11 and 7, and I do exercise and all of those kind of other things on top of normal reading life. So I think my way of fitting it in is prioritising reading over other things. So for instance, I don't watch a lot of TV. I love watching films, and there are some series that me and my husband watch when we can agree on what we want to watch, but I will always prioritise reading over those things. And so I tend to read mostly in the evenings, and also just little snippets of time in the day. Like for instance, if I'm cooking and I have to wait 10 minutes before I have to do the next thing, I'll pick up my book while I'm doing that. Or a lot of my reading is done by audiobooks. So when I'm in the car to work and back each day, I'll have an audiobook on. If I go on a visit at lunchtime, I'll have my audiobook. I have a shower speaker, so I listen to audiobooks in the shower. And if I'm doing like household cleaning and stuff like that, then I'll have either booktube or an audiobook on. So I do a lot of reading. Probably I'd say about a third of my reading is done on audiobook as well. So there's no sort of magic solution. I just sort of do bits and pieces when I can and prioritise reading in the evenings. So Molly also asked, you choose some really interesting books, where do you hear of them? So I hear of them almost always on booktube. I would say I tend to watch channels which talk about backlist books more than new releases, because I do really like hearing about new releases, but sometimes I wouldn't want to read books that everyone's talking about. I like finding hidden gems from the past and things like that, and so I do really enjoy when people talk about older books or books they've had on their TBR for a long time that have been not mentioned for a while, or maybe I've never even heard of them. That's one of my favourite things, to discover older books, and also some of the books I've just built up over a number of years, so they've become older books and lesser known. I also like things like a Good Read podcast from BBC, where they'll talk about backlist books, or sometimes I'll look back to things like previous Oprah Book Club choices or podcasts where they'll mention older books, things like that. So I just like hearing about things that have been popular in the past and aren't necessarily talked about much anymore. And Molly's final question was, am I thinking of doing more vlogs this year? I really enjoy doing vlogs, but they never do very well in the numbers stakes. So not, like I said, I'm not motivated by numbers, but it just makes me think, is that not what people who watch my channel like? I always do a vlog when I'm on holiday, and I usually do a vlog if I do a trip somewhere, like if I go to London. I'm going to a booktube meetup soon, so I will probably do a reading vlog for that day. And so I do them for things like that. I really love watching other people's reading vlogs, just of kind of a weekend or something like that. So if that is something you'd like to see, please let me know, because I'd happily do that. I do, like I say, really enjoy doing it, but it's just that I don't tend to get the same number of viewing figures on those. Charlie Brick asks, what piece of advice would I give myself when I was a booktube newbie? Number one, to get a microphone, because if you listen to the difference between audio quality post microphone and audio quality pre microphone, there's a massive difference. And so I definitely say get a microphone from day one would be one of my pieces of advice. Also, learn from what other people do. I think you can get some really good inspiration and ideas from other people's channels. And also, I think just finding your own niche on booktube, because people gravitate towards what they're interested in. So if I want to learn about new fantasy books, there's plenty of fantasy channels out there. If I want to like focus on some romance or some Victorian literature or anything, you can find channels which do all of those kinds of things. So I think doing what you're passionate about is important, rather than doing what you think will be popular, because people will find you and you'll then find more like-minded people who are more likely to become friends if you are into the same sorts of things. Janet asked me, do I want to write a book? There's definitely sort of been bits of time where I've kind of thought about it, but I don't think I've really got the talent or the ability to spend a lot of time writing, because I have a very full life, and I think I don't have the dedication it takes to sit and write really regularly every day, and then to like redraft and edit and try and find an agent, all of those things. I don't think I've got enough passion in me to do those things either. I think if I did write something, it would be more likely to be non-fiction, something maybe with a medical memoir, I don't know, those kind of things. But I don't think at this stage of my life it's something that I could take on. So who knows, maybe one day, but it's not like a big passion project in my life that I can't wait to go and write a book. So two questions that are quite similar. Aaron asked me what book or series first got me into reading, and Rebecca asked what books did I read and love as a child and a teenager. I would say the books that stick out in my memory are ones that we did through school initially. So ones I can think of that our teachers used to read us that I loved. Gobelino, The Witch's Cat, I really loved that book. The Wolves of Willoughby Chase, I can remember my teacher reading that to me and being really excited at the end of the day to get the next instalment of that book. I can remember reading Tarka the Otter after we watched the film of it in school, and White Fang and Black Beauty and all of the kind of animal-based books. And I also really loved The Animals of Farthingwood, which was a TV show in probably the 90s that was adapted from a book. So I really liked those when I was really, really young. Then I moved into, I really liked the kind of point books, like the point horrors, the point romances. I did like those books. But by far the most, from probably mid-primary school onwards, I used to read adult fiction, because I've told this story before, but me and my mum used to be big audiobook listeners, and we would get tapes from the library. They'd come in these huge cases with like 12, 15 tapes in, maybe more, and we'd share them. So one of us would have to finish the tape and then pass it on to the other one of us. And we got through like probably literally hundreds of audiobooks as I was growing up, because I used to listen to them while I did crafts and while I did puzzles and that kind of stuff. And Catherine Kickson was one of the authors that we loved the most, but they tended to be sort of historical family sagas kind of books would be the ones that we'd listen to. I have got a reading journal which I kept from when I was quite a lot younger, where I used to write in all of the books we've read, and there was so many. And they're just, that's really what got me into reading, I think, the most, by reading those books and talking about them with my mum, because we were both reading them at the same time. I guess we buddy read everything. And so it was really nice to have someone to share that with at the same time. So thank you, Mum. And Rebecca also wants to know if my children read and do they read things which are similar to me or very different, and also if my husband reads. So children do read, yes. My youngest, he's about to turn 8 soon. He loves graphic novels the best because he's kind of graduated from picture books, but he finds books with with just chapters and no pictures. He finds them a bit like boring still. He loves graphic novels. He loves things like Dogman, and he also likes, he's just getting into Tom Gates, which is like a bit more words, a bit less drawings, that kind of thing. My daughter really likes sort of middle grade female-led books, especially ones set around school and that kind of thing. And she also likes graphic novels. And the things that we read together are mainly fantasy series. So for instance, we are reading the Nevermore series at the moment. We've read the first 3 Harry Potters, then they got a little bit scared, so we're having a little break from that. We've got Tilly and the Book Wanderers to read. So the kind of the series that I've read and loved in middle grade, we are reading together. And we've also been reading some children's classics, like we read The Railway Children, which we all really loved, and there's a film adaptation, so that was really nice. And I really want to read Heidi with them and The Secret Garden because I really love those. All of my childhood books that I loved, and a lot of books that I've collected as I've got older, I've kept in preparation for them to read. So ones like Nina Borden books, which I really loved when I was a kid, I've found copies of those as I've sort of looked in charity shops and things and kept them so that my kids have those to read when they wish. Is my husband a reader? Absolutely not. Very sadly, he reads, if he ever reads, he reads sports biographies. He's obsessed with sport and he likes reading about sports people, but he tends to read them so slowly that he basically reads them over like a year. If he reads one book in a year, that's impressive for him. And it is a bit of a shame because I would love it if he was a reader, but he just says he has so many other interests that he doesn't want to read enough to sacrifice any of his other interests, which I guess is fair enough, and it's why I'm happy to have all of you guys to talk to about books instead. Gemma from Gemma Books asks what books have been the best books I've read to or with the kids. So I think I answered that one already. But a book I bought recently, which I'm really looking forward to reading with them, is The Chronicles of Neverwhy by Anna James. This is the first book in a new series for middle grade readers, and this will be the first time that I'm reading a middle grade book with them that I haven't already read for my own enjoyment. So that will be a new experience that I'm really looking forward to. Katie Cat Books asks, are there any local authors, past or present, that I would recommend? We have quite a lot of authors that have come from this area. So she also asked what my accent was, which isn't a bookish question, but it will tie into the answer. So my accent, I'm from Essex. I don't have a very strong Essex accent anymore. I definitely had a stronger Essex accent when I lived and grew up in Essex. And I now live in Norfolk, so I definitely don't have a Norfolk accent. No disparagement to Norfolk accents, but I don't have one. So from Essex, there's lots of authors, but the 2 that I picked who I like their work are Sarah Winman, who's written things like Tin Man, When God is a Rabbit, and one with the parrot on the front cover, Still Life, that's the one, which I absolutely adored. And Sarah Perry is also from Essex as well, so she wrote The Essex Serpent and Enlightenment. And there was definitely another book she read which title escapes me at the moment. So they're quite famous authors from Essex. Then from Norfolk, there's quite a big selection. So the most famous of which I would say would be probably Philip Pullman. There's also Rose Tremaine, Anna Sewell, and one that has been really popular over the last couple of years is Songi Mandana, who wrote The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. She is a Norfolk author. She lives in Norwich, and that book's been really popular around the world in the last couple of years. So we've got quite a good bookish scene. I think in Norfolk, a lot of writers come to our local university or the University of East Anglia because they've got a very famous creative writing programme. And so a lot of authors come to Norfolk, and we have really good book events and stuff like that here, which is really lovely. She also asked, what is one book that's not necessarily your favourite book, but a book that everyone thinks you should read? I had to think about this for a while, and I think that it would be The Beekeeper of Aleppo, because this book is one which really gives you an insight into what it must be like being a refugee and trying to flee from your homeland and start a new life somewhere where you don't want to do that, leaving everything you know and love behind, the treacherous journeys that you have to go through, and all of the luck that has to be on your side to make it. And then I really feel like in the current sad state that we're in the world right now, where lots of people are being rejected, turned away, othered, and there's a huge amount of racism and anti-immigration rhetoric throughout the world, I feel like if everyone read this book and actually had a tiny inkling of what it might be like to be in the refugees' shoes, then they might be more understanding and welcoming and actually care about their fellow human beings rather than making them out to be a bad force in the world. So that would be my answer for that question, and it's a really good question, so thank you for that one. Elaine asked me, what is a book that stuck with you over the years? And I would say this book, which is A Thousand Splendid Suns by Khalid Hosseini. I absolutely adore this book. I've read it, I think, probably 3 times. This is set in Afghanistan, and it's following a young woman called Mariam who is sent to marry a man called Rashid when she's quite young. Rashid is a really cruel husband. He's abusive and he's horrible. And Mariam has to find a way to be his wife. And then he takes on a second wife, this girl called Layla, who is younger, and initially Mariam is really resentful that she's there, but then they form this kind of sisterhood together. And coming towards the later years of the book, because it goes over many years, then the Afghanistan war starts, and the Taliban are taking over, and that changes everything. And this book is an absolute wonder. I love it so much, and it's actually responsible for me making a very good friend, because one time at work there was a colleague of mine who I didn't know really at all, and I saw that she was reading this book in the staff room, and I immediately said to her, oh, I love that book. And then we ended up talking about books, finding out that both of us really loved books, and we ended up swapping some books, recommending books to each other, talking about books, going to book events together, and she's become like a really good friend of mine over the last several years now. And so this book I hold responsible for making me a great friend, and I would happily reread this again. I just think it's one of my favourite books of all time, and I would encourage everyone to pick it up because it's beautiful. So that's all the bookish questions, and then there's a few general life questions which I've got in here as well. So Aaron wanted to know what my favourite sport was and what sports am I best at. I am terrible at sports. I have never been good at sports, and I dreaded sport at school because I just wasn't good at it. So I like things that I can do on my own. So I became a runner in lockdown, and I then had to stop running to do strength training because I had a knee injury. And then strength training I started doing 6 months ago with weights, and I absolutely love it. So I don't know if you'd call that a sport. It's definitely exercise. That's my main exercise that I do is lift weights, and I really, really love it. But I don't know if that counts as a sport. What is my favourite sport? Undoubtedly is Speedway. I have talked about Speedway before because most people don't know what it is, but it's essentially racing a special kind of motorbike round a track, 4 laps at a time, 4 riders at a time. There are no brakes on the bike, so it's really, really dangerous, and it's really exciting. And I'll put a little video clip up in the corner if I can, just to show you what Speedway looks like, because it's an international sport. It's massive in Poland, and so I'd say second most in Britain after Poland. And there's Grand Prix, there's club racing. It's fantastic, and we can go and watch it live here. Our nearest stadiums are Kings Lynn and Ipswich, and it's just fantastic. So if you're into motorsports, I'd highly recommend that you check that one out. He also wanted to know what my favourite country was that I visited. So I'm not very well travelled, sadly. When I was younger, my parents always did stuff with us in the UK. We never really went abroad. And then when I was a student, I never really had the money to go abroad. And then when I was a doctor, when you're in the hospital, they allocate your annual leave to you here and there. So I never really had the time to go abroad. Then we had kids and COVID and all of that stuff. So I'm just not that well travelled. I would say that my favourite country that I visited would be Italy. I've been to Italy twice. My favourite place I've ever been is Sicily. I went to a place called Taormina in Sicily, which was absolutely stunning, and I'd rate that as my favourite place I've ever been if you're interested in travelling to Italy. The food was incredible. It was so relaxed. The culture was great. It was beautiful. There was beaches as well as things to do. There was markets. It was just like wonderful, and I absolutely loved that place. He also wants to know what's my favourite meal. I really struggle with this. I don't know. I think probably, so I'm vegan, so it has to be vegan first of all. I think I really love Mexican food, so something Mexican would be really nice. I love a really good chili. I love nice vegan burgers with all their like trimmings and stuff like that. I love a nice stew with some crusty bread, like all of those kind of things. All of those are kind of some of my favourite things, but I don't know if I have like one specific meal that's my favourite. And then his last question was, what is my favourite animal? I really like forest animals, like wolves and foxes and bears. I like those kind of animals. I've got tattoos of wolves and a bear on me, and I really like the big cats as well, so specifically lions. And my favourite domestic animal is a cat. I've had cats for my whole life. I have 2 new cat babies, as I mentioned in a previous video, called Molly and Magic. And so cats are my favourite domesticated animal. Very kind question from Janet. She asks, how do I look so young for my age? I don't know. I suppose, like, I colour my hair. I wear makeup. I don't have any other I don't have any other tips. I try and look after my skin, but I haven't done that for like a long time. That's quite a recent thing that I started getting some good skincare products to use, but I don't really have any secrets. I don't smoke. I think smoking absolutely ruins your skin. So I'm not a non-smoker. I try and drink lots of water. I try and get enough sleep every night. I don't really have any other suggestions. Maybe I should just thank my parents for giving me good skin genetically. I don't know. I'm not sure. But thank you, Janet, for asking the question. And is my husband a doctor too? And how did we meet? No, he's not a doctor. He is a mortgage and insurance broker. We met I was only 19 when we met. I was on a night out in a Wetherspoons pub in Norwich as a student, and he was working behind the bar, and I sort of spotted him across the room and said to my friend that I liked the barman, and my friend, who was from Norwich, said, oh, I know him, and do you want me to introduce you? And so I said, yes please. So he did, and then the rest is history. So it was literally me just spotting him across the room and my friend knowing him, and we got introduced. I've been together with him since I was 19, so we've been together for like over 20 years now. That's it. Student night out. I think, I've got one final question. This one really flummoxed me, so I have answered it now. This is from Charlie. If I could meet one of the cast of The Traitors from the UK, who would I meet and why, and what book would I recommend to them? So I think everyone probably knows what The Traitors is, but it's a fantastic TV show, like a reality TV show, which is a game that is on in the UK, America and Australia. I don't know if they do it in any other countries. I chose Diane from series 2 to be the person that I'd meet, because I think she was really fascinating. She was one of my favourite characters from The Traitors, and I would she would stand out in my memory. Lots of people have faded, but she would really stand out. She was a mum who had her son in Traitors, and nobody knew that she had her son as one of the other contestants. She was from Northern Ireland. She was a retired teacher. She was very astute and quite intense as well, but I think she'd be a fascinating person to meet. The book that I wanted to recommend to her was Milkman by Anna Burns. That's because she's from Northern Ireland. This is a book set in Northern Ireland, but it's very much about family. And this book is amazing. It won the Booker Prize. It was my book of the year a few years ago. And it's a book set in the Troubles in Northern Ireland. It's very much a stream of consciousness, and all of the characters are named by their role in the family rather than their names. So we don't know any of the children's names or any of the family's names. They're like daughter-in-law, middle sister, mother, those kind of things, rather than their actual names. And this is following a middle daughter who has a maybe boyfriend, and she's also being accused of having a relationship with this guy called Milkman, who is part of a political group in Northern Ireland. She doesn't know where the rumours have come from. She hasn't had anything to do with him, but everybody's treating her with a lot of suspicion and telling her that she's putting herself in danger and things like that. But this is a really, really great book, and people always say listen to this on audio because the narration is amazing, and I did listen to it and I would agree the narration is amazing. Your internal voice in your head starts having a Northern Irish accent if you're anything like me. So this looks like it would be quite hard to read because it's literally like completely full text with not a lot in the way of paragraphs. So listening to it just is so immersive and wonderful, and I think it's fantastic, and that's what I'd recommend to Diane from Traitors. So I think I've answered all of the questions. My sincere apologies if I've missed any. But thank you for everyone who sent the questions in. I hope that you've enjoyed this, and I thank you again for watching my channel. And I hope you have a lovely week, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.